Hey everyone, I am Ben Boulter and I am one of the chiropractors and directors of B2 Shuffle Clinic, which is based in Buckinghamshire, and I'm going to do a little live video about pretty much the thing that most people are sort of suffering with at the minute, which is a lot to do with sort of working postures and this hybrid setup. We're sort of dealing with it a lot at the moment. Hopefully it won't be too long a video, but just kind of want to touch on a lot of the stuff that I get asked on a daily basis. If you've got any questions at all, feel free to sort of pop them in and I'll quite happily answer as we go. I'm going to touch on quite a significant part of this, which is how you can take your sort of working environment from being at home and switching up and going back into the office. Because I know a lot of people are really struggling with this concept of sort of, you know, you've invested all that money now and you've invested all that time on creating that perfect setup at home. Well, I say that, probably 50% of people have done that. The other 50 are probably still working at breakfast bars and still trying to navigate how best to avoid family and the fridge and kids and the new dog and everything else that's kind of going on in and around the house. Hence why it's probably quite useful for you guys to probably try and get back into the office to actually manage to get some work done. But with regards to working postures and setups and positions, I have stopped preaching about posture being the main problem regarding back pain for an awful long time, because fundamentally it's not. Posture is not the reason why a lot of people get back pain. Honestly, it all comes down to the sheer amount of lack of movement that we do throughout the day. So it's that classic conversation I have with people regarding whether, you know, they come in, they say, even at sort of 40, 50 years old, and they'll say to me, oh, you know, I'm pretty certain the reason I've got back pain is because I'm getting older and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, it's really not, categorically not about your age. It is all to do with the length of time. So, and that comes down to sort of repetitive movements, repetitive positions, and that is mostly things that we do on a daily basis. For instance, sitting at desks. Even if you have a stand-up job or you have a job that's labor intensive, tradesmen are a perfect example of that it's a repetitive job, it's a repetitive nature. So what ends up happening is you become used to a certain job or you become used to a certain position and your muscles will accommodate for that. Technically, they get stiffer because of that, get tighter, overworked, and consequently you end up with back pain. Now, that is a bit of a generic way of looking at it, granted, but in the grand scheme of things, that's typically what happens. So, what is the best posture you can possibly be in throughout the day, whether you are in the office or at work or even at home? Right, let's get this right. So there's no such thing as the perfect posture. I could take two people. One, sit them in the most amazing, perfect, incredible posture that I could think of. And the other one, I could sit them in the worst possible position I can think of as well. If I sit them both there for 8 hours a day, they are both going to be stiff. They're both going to be uncomfortable. They're both going to be really starting to get a bit sore. So my advice is active working, so mobility, and actually doing things in and around your normal daily stuff. So for instance, sat at your desk, having Zoom calls, being in meetings now because you're allowed back in the office. All those things need to have some variety throughout the day. Bit of standing, bit of moving around. Everything that you need to be doing shouldn't be focused around just doing one thing. So the other thing I've seen most recently with regards to sort of, especially COVID the last 2 years and people trying to adapt their working positions, is that they have swapped and they've gone for like, oh right, I'm going to spend all this money. You know, it used to be mattresses. Mattresses used to be the big thing. We've now changed that. We've gone a little bit differently. And we've gone, I'm going to buy a standing desk, and I'm going to buy this standing desk and I'm going to stand all day and it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to feel like I'm actually doing some exercise whilst I'm actually, you know, at work. Those people that are exchanging sitting for standing are literally just swapping one evil for another, because it's, as like I said at the start of this, it's not technically about the position. It is the length of time you're in that position for. So whether you are sitting or standing, if you're there 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, because it's very easy to lose track of time nowadays, especially with our working lives completely dominated by technology and our computer screens. It's very easy to get lost and wrapped up in this little world of, oh, I'm not going to move, I'm just going to sort of stay here and focus on my Excel spreadsheet and really just sort of hammer this out. you can't just swap one evil for another. You have to vary it. And that, I mean, I'm a realist, and you'll find a lot of chiropractors, osteopaths, physiotherapists that get a bit preachy around this sort of subject and start to tell you around, to get up and move every half an hour, 45 minutes. Come on, people, that is completely unrealistic. It takes me 45 minutes to load up an Excel spreadsheet to even start work, let alone to think about then getting up and going moving. I would never get any admin work done if I had to get up every 45 minutes. And I'm pretty sure the majority of you would probably testify to that as well. Realistically, every 2 to 2.5, 3 hours is absolutely fine. And to be honest, if you're not getting up every 2.5 hours to go to the toilet, then you're not drinking enough anyway. So you need to probably increase that a little bit too. It is just trying to work out what it is that you need in order, A, to make your life a little bit easier, a little bit more comfortable, but also you need to work out how to work around your schedule, how to work around your meetings, how frequent, infrequent you need to get up and stand around and change your position from sit to stand or stand to sit. Got to take the dog for a walk. You've got to go do the exercise. Just don't get fixated with staying in one position. And then when you do get up, don't try and get into this realm of, I'm going to go and sort of get up and Jack, my best mate, is just sort of said he's needs an SI adjustment for too much sitting, and he's absolutely spot on. He does. He probably will do, because too much sitting is an absolute nightmare. We hear it all the time. We hear all this all the time. I've got, so my barber has just joined into this video as well, and they are going to be exactly the same. Stood up, one position, arms up. It is regardless of whether you're sitting or standing at work, or you're standing full time cutting hair. If you are in one position for a sustained period of time, you are going to start to get stiff, sore, aching, and that's when back pain starts to kind of become problematic. So what I would probably think about doing is trying to balance your working positions throughout the day, and then varying that a little bit. For instance, if I've got a whole day of admin at work, at home, and I've got to vary it. I've got sit-stand desks. I don't have a computer chair or a typical computer chair. I've got like a pivoting stool, so the base is fixed, but the stool kind of moves around a little bit, and it's quite comfortable. But I end up sort of perching, so I don't ever really go down to a sort of a full sit position. Much like what I'm on now. I'm on like a saddle stool now. James just asked a question. I'm going to answer these if they come through. So if they come through, I'll answer as much as I can. Hi Ben, how important is the quality of desk chair? Difference between £100 and £1,000 chair? Great question. Easy to answer, James. We had a lot of patients over the last 2 years who had to invest in a decent chair for home because they were sat on dining room chairs, they were sat on bar stools, or whatever it was they were sat on. And they unfortunately ended up going into a fantastic store, trying out 6-7 different chairs, finding the perfect one for them, and then getting a little bit, for want of a better word, trying to get a little bit cheap, and they decided they're going to go elsewhere. And they're going to go and try and find it cheaper online, and they went to Amazon, they went to eBay, and they went all these different places. And typically we hear the story all the time. They bought this chair, it fell apart in 6 months, and they ended up going back and having to buy the £1,000 chair. My advice is do not skimp. And that might sound really easy for me to say as a chiropractor. It might sound even easier to say if I'm in a position where I have the equity to buy a chair that's £1,000. But don't skimp, because you'll end up having to spend more later on down the line. Also, go and speak to whoever you're buying it from, because this is an important part of your day. This is something you sit on probably longer than you sit on your sofa. So you should be investing a little bit of time, a little bit of money into this, and trying to work out which one suits you best. It's don't just buy one online. You have to go and try these things as well. You have to try and work out which ones are best. But if you can, go and try them. Then go back and actually speak to the store, speak to the people working there. A lot of these places now, they have payment plans, they have schemes. The store that's local to us, they have a 0% interest pay over a 12-month period of time. You can spread the cost of your chair over 12 months. That's amazing, that's great, that kind of helps everyone. What I would recommend is actually being honest and upfront and sort of saying, right, This chair is £1,000. That's a little bit out of my immediate price range, but is there any chance that I can spread the payments with this? Is there any chance? Because we don't live in this world where a lot of us have raw equity knocking around anymore. We don't live in that world. I was always taught growing up that, my stepdad is a prime example of this. Don't have debts, don't have credit cards, try and reduce your mortgage as quickly as possible. That world is gone. That doesn't exist anymore. Unless you've got a mortgage or you've got a credit card, your credit rating never really increases. So you have to be realistic about, spreading cost of things and actually not being able to afford them to pay up front, especially when you're investing in something that's quite significant, like a chair. So, James, if you want me to talk you out of a £1,200 chair, I really can't do it, mate. I really can't. What you need to do is probably, if you haven't tried it, make sure you try it first, or make sure they've got like a try before you buy setup, or return within 30 days setup. Most of these places do. Most of these online companies, you get to trial it for 30 days before you commit to the full purchase. Make sure you do that, and be honest with yourself. If it's uncomfortable or you can't seem to find a working position that's working right for you, don't be afraid to send it back. But if you've got the opportunity to go to a proper ergonomic chair setup store somewhere local to you, go and try the 15,000 chairs they've got knocking around in their showroom and actually find the best one for your working day. Now, bearing in mind that your working day should revolve around a little bit of a sit-stand combination. And if you're not, you need to look at probably that setup first, trying to work out whether you need probably a desk riser for your laptop so you can kind of take it up and down, or whether you have the ability to invest again in probably a sit-stand desk. Those are the things you want to be thinking about so you can make your day a little bit more, it's what we call active working, all right? I don't want anyone to think that they need to be thinking about posture and all that stuff anymore. I need you to be thinking about working actively, so varying positions throughout the day and making it a little bit more comfortable for you to work, A, at home, B, in the office, and then amalgamate the two. A lot of these places as well, a lot of companies, especially over the last 2 years, actually gave a lot of budget towards their staff and their employees to help them buy a setup or create a setup at home to make working a little bit more comfortable. That was a fantastic incentive. I know, for instance, Facebook, I think, gave all their employees £1,000 to set up a desk and an office space at home. Great idea, great incentive. If you're being asked to still work from home, make sure you speak to your HR department, and if they're not allowing you back into the office, you need to have that conversation. You need to be saying to them, okay, fine, you want me to work from home, that's absolutely fine, I've got no problem with that, I have the space, but I don't have the setup. Can you help me financially with setting up my office space at home? And that way you can then, you then don't have to sort of have that offset expense. It's tax deductible for a lot of these companies. So as long as you're having the conversation, you're open with it, that's absolutely fine. If they reject you and they turn around and say no, then you have every right to turn around and say, well, I want to be back in the office then, or I want a pay rise. I want to be able to afford this new chair that I've got to buy, and that is going to be another £1,000. So that's going to be another £1,000 a year, please. You need to be able to have those conversations. Am I going to? I'm just reading a couple of these questions going through. I'm going to need to buy two, one for home, one for the office. Hello payment plan. Yeah, hello payment plan. There you go, Lise. So you speak to these people. Don't be afraid to have that conversation. They understand now. They might offer things like there are new systems, Go Cardless, Klarna, Stripe even do it, PayPal have interval payments now. You've got all these different variety of offset payments or installment payment systems, which are great to use, great to be utilized. Just have an honest conversation with these people in the store. They're still human, and they're still probably going to understand your point of view and your dilemma as well. That's really what you want to be looking at. Would you say, sorry, I'm just going to read a question from Jack. Would you say that the chair really matters if you are consistently alternating sitting, standing? If you're sitting still for 2 hours, it's important you're comfortable. You don't want to kind of be up and standing and all the rest of it. A lot of these chairs have got quite decent hydraulic systems and springs and all the rest of it. If you are, in the olden days, we used to kind of sit into a chair, lock it out, and basically just be comfortable in that position and kind of ride the wave for the best part of the day. If in an active working situation, the springs and the hydraulics in the chair are probably the most expensive part, as well as the fabric. So what you want to be thinking about is that when you buy it, you're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. You're going to be kind of working the spring system quite a significant amount. So yes, typically the chair is important from a comfort perspective of when you are sitting, but B, also for the investment you're making is the mechanics, the machinery and the parts that have gone into making the chair. This is where we've seen a lot of the fallback over the last 2 years. The chairs that are knockoffs, that are made cheaply based on the ones that are really, really good, they fall apart because the parts fail and you end up with really uncomfortable positions, and you can't get your chair out of a certain position is probably the best way of putting it, because the mechanism has failed and the trigger's locked. So yes, the chair is important. I don't know if I would want to even call it chair though, because typically I use a stool. I've got a saddle stool for clinic use now. I wouldn't call it a chair so much. I would say whatever you're sitting on. So rather than being so rigid about thinking about it as chair, no chair, don't be afraid to try all sorts. There's one that looks like a massive big pogo spring. Absolutely love that thing. It's so comfortable, but it is just literally just a dome that you sit on, and it's bouncy and fantastic, but it occupies a lot of space. So does the chair really matter? Yes, it does, because you want to be investing in the mechanics of the chair and the system the chair is using, as well as everything else. I think that kind of covers most of what I wanted to sort of talk about with regards to working, about hybrid working and going back into the office and the switch between home and office. Make sure you are thinking about active working, so varying sit to stand. Make sure you're investing in decent furniture. Have a conversation with your employers if they can afford to offset you through HR departments and through ergonomic setups. Have that conversation. If they can't, you're self-employed or you run your own business, have a think about payment plans. Go and speak to the shop owners, go and speak to the people online. Don't just buy the first thing you come across. My biggest bit of advice is go and try these things and don't skimp. You'll regret it long term, you'll completely regret it, I promise you. Back pain does not happen because of bad posture, it happens because of length of time. So it happens because you are sat in one position for a sustained period of time. That's what makes it worse. So those are my take-home bits of messaging. If there are any more questions on this, feel free to get in contact with me. You can contact me directly, message me if you need any advice, ask. I'll quite happily answer it. Those of you that sort of know me personally know that I don't hold back with my answers. I will quite happily give you my very, very honest opinion, and yeah, we'll go from there. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to probably try and do live videos probably once a month going forwards, and whatever topics or questions you have, feel free, knock them out there, and I'll go through it when I can. And otherwise, have a great night. I'm going to shoot myself off. Well, I've got a tie with another Thai meal with a group of chiropractors, and yeah, that's all from me tonight. Have a good evening. See you later.